4 o'clock in the room 108, so we're reconvening the council meeting. But in keeping with our tradition, let's stand and do the pledge here and turn your cell phones to silent or vibrate.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Berg, Councilmember Dalby,
Here.
Councilmember O, Councilmember Stevens,
Here.
Councilmember Myers,
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from regular meeting number 28 on September 15th, 2020, and special meeting number 29 on September 29th, 2020, as presented. Acknowledge July financial statement and payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. Canvasser solicitor application for the Working Man's Christmas Party to solicit donations within city limits from November 1st to December 31st, 2020. Civil Service Commission eligibility list for September 23rd, 2020, Clerk, Health Department, entrance and promotional. Authorization to change cell phone service from Verizon Wireless to AT&T FirstNet. Approve the replacement of a Vaughn chopper pump from Allied Systems Incorporated out of Omaha, Nebraska for the quoted price of $9,885 for the water pollution control facility. Resolution number 197, 2020, setting October 20th, 2020 as the date of a public hearing on the proposal to vacate and dispose of city-owned real property known as Parcel A, a portion of Wildwood Park, located on West Finley Avenue, 216 Wildwood. Resolution number 198, 2020, setting October 20th, 2020 as the date of a public hearing on the proposal to vacate and dispose of city-owned real property known as Parcel B, a portion of Wildwood Park, located on West Finley Avenue, 218 Wildwood. Resolution number 199, 2020, setting October 20th, 2020 as the date of a public hearing on the proposal to vacate and dispose of city-owned real property known as Parcel C, a portion of Wildwood Park located at 1725 West Finley. Resolution number 214, 2020, setting October 20th, 2020 as the date of a public hearing on the proposal to vacate and dispose of a city alley lying between and adjoining lots 18, 19, and 20 in Highland Park, in addition to the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa, and rescinding resolution number 195, 2020. Resolution number 215, 2020, authorizing destruction of certain records according to the Code of Iowa 2017 as amended. Resolution number 216, 2020, setting October 20th, 2020 as the date of a public hearing on the disposition of city-owned property located in the 500 block of South Ward Street, 517 South Ward Street. Resolution number 219, 2020, approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance for the 2020 Water Pollution Control Facility Concrete Repairs Project. Beer and/or liquor applications for Mizzou Hibachi and Sushi at 1111 Quincy Avenue, number 111. Warehouse Barbecue at 2818 North Court. Alpine Inn at 1804 Albia Road with outdoor service area. Mimi's Taqueria at 707 Church Street with outdoor service area. Potros Garcia at 2804 North Court. Club 888 at 123 West 3rd Street. All applications pending final inspections.
Move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Item C, I need a motion for approval of tonight's agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Take roll.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Item D is a report from our city administrator, Phil Rath. So Phil, you have the floor.
If I may,
The,
Mr. Rath, due to the lack of two council people, could I ask that your item number 1 be brought back in 2 weeks at the next regular meeting?
That is fine. I just had a prepared statement. I can either hold it over or I can,
I would encourage you to go ahead and make the statement and we can take action after that.
and it may help with the future direction from the council. Okay, great, thanks. Excuse me. And so this is a report. I mean, it's to the council, to the citizens. So anyone that's wondering where we're headed, maybe we'll help with that. So following the council decision to defeat the resolution last Tuesday night, city staff is seeking direction on how to proceed. Prior to the vote, I was asked to define what a yes or no vote meant for the resolution before the council. The particular resolution was to award the waste services contract to Sparta Waste Services for a 10-year period. As stated at last week's meeting, a yes vote was clear. Staff would proceed with finalizing a contract with Sparta for a 10-year agreement. A no vote provided less certainty. As noted, a no vote could mean the council did not like the terms of the drafted resolution and draft contract, or it could mean the council wanted to retain the current provider, or it could mean the city council did not care for either offer and wanted to reject both and begin the process over. As I was pondering how to approach tonight's meeting, I was alerted to the editorial in today's Courier. In my opinion, the editor's view of the topic was spot on. Speaking solely for myself as a member of the evaluation team, I felt that Sparta Waste Services provided an enhanced service at a reduced price. That was determined based upon the submitted proposals and the interviews before the panel. As noted in the editorial, the public participation at last week's meeting and numerous messages via phone, email, and social media, it was not a popular decision to offer a recommendation against the local company. At the meeting, there were a couple of statements that resonated, indicating the importance of supporting local businesses. That factor did weigh into my thought process between the two firms, as did the fiscal aspect. It was difficult for me to ignore that a company coming in from the ground floor proposed providing the service for a lower amount over that 10-year period. Then again, if it was as simple as a financial impact or keeping business local, there would not be as much debate as this issue has provided. As indicated in the editorial and at last week's meeting, there was a question as to the complaints city staff has received in relation to the current service. The individuals carrying out the service are viewed as city employees to the public. But one thing is certain, whoever is awarded the contract needs to partner with city staff to provide a great service to the residents and ensure their employees are serving proudly and respectfully. In fairness to Bridge City Sanitation, it was noted at the meeting there has not been formal documentation of these issues and proposed remedies over the past couple years. Staff indicated they had informal discussions with one of the owners and had planned to remedy other issues through the new contract and request for proposal process. The question of notification and ability to remedy adds another wrinkle to the decision process for a successor contract. If awarded to Sparta, what assurance does the city have that similar issues will not appear? If awarded to Bridge City Sanitation, will past issues be remedied? To that end, there are a number of suggestions and comments made by council members during the meeting as to what they would like to see in the next contract. Some of these suggestions, such as the contract reduced in length, a 3, 6, 9, or 1 year, add some complexity. The two companies submitted their proposals based upon a 10-year contract. And that length of a contract, such as this, provides assurance to the company that they can leverage that contract against the purchase of new or replacement capital. If the council is entertaining such a significant change, perhaps it would be best to reject both proposals, redefine the requested terms, and resubmit the request for proposals. On the other hand, both companies indicated they were agreeable to the majority of the requests put forward by the council members. And in that case, the council could direct staff to prepare a resolution and begin the revised contract language with either firm.
Okay, thank you, Phil. That's good summary. Now, council, are there any actions or direction you want to give to the city staff at this point?
Go ahead, Bob, if you have something.
Well,
We can't take any action, right? Correct? This is only a
Well,
discussion.
it was set on there to request that further direction.
Just
so
direction,
you
though. We can't make a
could
motion.
provide further direction as to
Sure.
how you'd like staff to proceed, a resolution, rejecting the proposals, whatever it might be.
Okay.
Again, Councilman Myers was making the point that with a couple of council members absent, it may be at this time fortuitous to postpone or table this until a future meeting as well. So we'll leave that to your discretion. You could, we have a quorum. You could take action based off of that, and a 2-1 vote would be a simple majority and would carry. But out of a 5, 2 votes out of 5, so it's, to Councilman Myers' suggestion, it may be better to go that route tonight.
Well, I think in all fairness to the council, I think we operate as a complete council. And my opinion is that we should continue to operate as a complete council. So As tempting as it is, I think we need to wait for the full council. I do have some comments, but if you wanted to go first or whatever, or Skip, you guys right ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So the direction to the city administrator is to wait and bring something back at the council meeting on the 20th. Am I correct? And then you can make whatever comments you want, but that's the direction you're
Yeah.
giving him.
That was my suggestion.
Okay. We don't need to vote on that. I think that's pretty
General
clear.
consent.
Yeah. So Matt, you have the floor if you want to make some comments.
I just have a quick question first. When we say bring something back before the council, does that mean bring back, we voted down Sparta last time. Does that mean bring 2 proposals or bring 1 to the council to vote on?
Well, that's kind of where we were looking at getting direction from staff. It wasn't stated specifically last Tuesday as to why the vote, why council members voted against that. Like I said, it could have been they didn't like the length of the contract, they didn't like other things. It could be that they didn't like or didn't want to offer it to Sparta. There's a gamut of things that are a possibility. Without any further direction, staff doesn't. I could assume, but
Yeah.
in my practice, it's best not to assume what the council is thinking.
Well, I don't think it's fair after a bid process to have gone through that we honestly rebid it, because basically you have bidders now that have their numbers out there and exposed. And so I'm not sure that's fair to the people that bid them and the service providers. But I will say this, this is a long-term commitment. This is a 10-year, $19 million commitment. And I think the council had a lot of pressure last time on local versus out-of-town business. But I think this issue goes beyond that, in my opinion, and that's why I voted the way I did. I don't believe that local business always has the right to contracts or should be given contract if their service isn't quite there. And I think if the only metric was to determine a company based on whether they're local or not, I would certainly have voted in the opposite direction. But I think for 10 years, this is a massive undertaking, and we're locked in. I think it's a very serious one. So I don't want it to give the wrong impression, like I said last time, that we're not anti-local business. I just think that after 10 years, the real question comes down to, does this current provider have the ability to turn things around? I don't want to pay attention to complaints and all that stuff, because I guarantee you, whatever firm we hire is going to have complaints and issues. I want to know whether they're going to be able to work through it, or whether they give a willingness to say they're going to work through it. And so I think the question comes down to a couple things. One being local, that's a part of it, that's not all of it. We got to look at the jobs. The wages, I think, are significantly higher with Sparta and were. The ability to procure grants that may not just enhance the business or the waste collection, but do other projects in town. I think they had the market cornered on that. And then I think it's the citizens who we were elected to represent. It's easy to give in to political pressure, but we have to make the best decisions for the people we serve. That's why we run. And so I think 2 final points would be the equity. Are the citizens getting what they're paying for? Has there been enough time to turn that around? Our commitment from the current provider. And the efficacy of the whole thing is, do they matter? So, and I know, Kevin, you hit on that point. I am prepared tonight to go into and postpone, like Councilmember Meyer said, and have the city bring back another option. I think both options, again, should be on the table for reconsideration, even though we voted it down. But I was the only vote that voted in the ulterior, so I would make that my position. And because either way, it's going to fall on us to make the decision. Whether there's 2 resolutions or 1, another motion could be made at that point to take the other company. So it really doesn't matter. But I confirm my stand for Sparta, and that's the way it is. Thank you.
I'm not going to repeat everything he said, but I think you said it very well, Dalby.
Councilman Myers?
Oh, yes, please, thank you. Since it's a public forum here, I guess it's okay for me to say to Administrator Rath, who I respect very much, I read the editorial and I thought it was well written also. I am disappointed in your editorial comments where you're suggesting that it was not clearly implied, even though not stated in the vote last Tuesday, that in fact a 4-to-1 vote that it would not be Sparta, that it would be Bridge City, and that they would have a chance, as Matt is suggesting, to meet with our staff, go over all the notes that were compiled, the various things that Bridge City Sanitation agreed to do. And Matt and other council people who I've talked to, they keep coming back mainly to a singular point, which is there were complaints. I said at the meeting last Tuesday night, less than 4% of 9,200 customers complained. Also, council people, and Mr. Dalby just admitted, it makes no difference who the sanitation carrier is going to be, there will be complaints. So I appreciate the fact that maybe it'll come back, but if we aren't circling, to me, if it isn't obvious to the public that we really wanted one solution, we didn't get it, so let's try to get it in another way. I also wonder, Mr. Rath, if it would be appropriate, since I see Bridge City sanitation owners are here, would it be appropriate for them to speak right now or not? Or do they want to?
Well, that decision is up to the mayor and council. That's not my, I don't run the meeting.
Yeah. I think at this point, I would hold off on any comments from either provider if they were both present. Council's had adequate time to get feedback from them and ask them questions in the open meeting last week or 2 weeks ago. So I think at this point, the direction is to have the city staff prepare a position and come back at the meeting on the 20th. And the council can either debate it, vote it up, vote it down, or give other direction to the staff.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood. I did not understand. My suggestion was not to have city staff develop anything. It was to do what we have done right here tonight in 2 weeks at the regular meeting, where the other two would also have a chance. I feel like I said, our staff should meet with Bridge City, sit down and work out what this contract would look like that would be submitted to us. But maybe I'm wrong, but I would like the other two council people to have the opportunity to make that statement.
Yeah, and I do too, Your Honor. And maybe it would be such a recommendation as, have it be on council to make the motion and second to choose the firm. Because ultimately, that's what's going to happen anyway. Whatever recommendation you put on there doesn't mean we can't take action in the opposite direction too. So maybe just put this on the council.
Well, I think then it'd be appropriate to put a resolution on the council agenda for next meeting, and you vote it up, vote it down, if you're comfortable with that.
Was that, just to clarify, was that a resolution for any firm in particular, or was that a general to be filled in the blank type
I think
resolution?
you fill in the blank, and based on the vote last week, 4-1 is pretty clear.
Well, Bridge City is right here. And if I'm not, they could explain whether I'm right or wrong here, but if they didn't come thinking that in fact what happened after that 4-1 vote was that they would have a chance to sit down with staff and go over all the notes and all the things and see if they could meet them or would meet them. So Matt, I think we're close probably as far as what we all asked and the answers that were given last Tuesday. So if we miss the chance of staff to work with Bridge City, unless our intent is we don't want to work with Bridge City, we still want to bring Sparta back.
My position is after 10 years, Bob, and I'll just be honest and upfront, I think the opportunity to change or to modify or to improve has been given. My position is I think we represent the people, and I think that the other firm deserves another shot. And in Robert's rules, you can make a motion to reconsider. That's not out of the question.
There is something, though, in Robert's rules that when there's when there's a majority vote of 4-1, that the dissenting person cannot bring that back up, but we can
Has to
get
be on the,
clarification on
right,
that.
that's correct, Bob.
Correct.
I will accept whatever outcome the vote is on 2 weeks from tonight. I'm just one person. So yep, you got
I
it.
have a question, Bob. Where did you get the 4%? Only 4%?
In our literature, the way you figure the numbers, it was based on the survey and those that complained.
Okay, thank you.
Phil, are you,
Well, I can state that the reason I voted the way I did the other night was the fact I had asked for a 1-year evaluation, no matter who it is, on an annual basis. And I was never given a yes answer on that. It was 1, 3, 6, and 9. I would still like to have a 1-year evaluation, but it's not 100%. I'd still like to have it, but I can live without it, I guess.
are you comfortable with what you've heard tonight to bring a recommendation and a resolution back on the 20th and specifically name a company?
Me personally name a company based off what I heard tonight. Well, based on what I heard tonight, it sounded 2-1 opposite of what, with Sparta. But I don't know that based off of last week, you had 2 members that voted against the resolution with naming Sparta. If that was because they wanted to have Bridge City Sanitation or because they didn't like the terms of the way that resolution was drafted, that I don't have an answer to.
Right.
So if I was to say right now coming out of this meeting, my marching orders would be to draft it to award back to Sparta based on what I'm hearing right here. I don't know that that's a direction though that
Well,
the
that's why
council
I
as
think
a
if
whole
we
wants to
only
go.
have 3 members of the council, I'd rather wait until next meeting and one of them has been exposed to COVID and the other one has had an emergency come up they couldn't control. So I'd like to have the full council weigh in on this rather than 3.
Yeah, and-
Are you comfortable waiting until the next meeting?
Yeah, I think that we should. I do.
I thought
Either way.
that's what you were saying, Matt, so.
Yep.
So let's move on so we don't get bogged down in the discussion. We'll bring it up back on the agenda with a recommendation to proceed next time. And it certainly doesn't prevent our staff from having additional contact with either company at this point. Okay, item 2.
Item 2 is the council retreat update. So one of the objectives early on was to set up a retreat with the council and myself, and we have that extended to the senior level staff as well. And that is scheduled right now for November 14th. It is a Saturday morning. And we are looking at working with Bridgeview Center as a venue for that.
Okay. So appreciate if council would mark their calendars accordingly.
And you should have received an email and hopefully something in your box, Skip, about a questionnaire to complete. And that it was for those staff members and council members. Complete that and have that turned in by next Friday, the 16th. And then I will be submitting those to Elizabeth Hansen. She'll be putting together some workbooks that will be utilized during that session. So we'll have a starting point for conversation and dialogue as far as setting goals and team building.
Thank you, Phil. Item E in our agenda is an opportunity for citizens to comment on anything that's on the agenda. Is there anybody that wants to, have you received any notification? Okay. All right, let's move to item F then, department reports.
Bid report to reject bid received for contractual janitorial services for the Ottumwa, Wapello County Law Enforcement Center. Recommendation, reject bid received for contractual janitorial services for the Ottumwa, Wapello County Law Enforcement Center.
Is there a motion?
Move the resolution.
Second? Hearing
second
none? What?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, now we can have some discussion. Any questions or discussion? Mickey, you have the floor. Sergeant, or Lieutenant Huck, sorry.
Evening. The work prescribed entails janitorial services in police department spaces and shared spaces at the law center on a daily, weekly, and monthly schedule, plus equipment and supplies. 7 bid specifications were sent out and 1 bid was received. Due to a clerical error, 1 bid specification was not received in a timely manner by the business in order to examine the services required by the contract. Additionally, the specific requirements listing the services to be performed along with the schedule for those services was not included in the bid information mailed out. The received bid was significantly higher than the budgeted amount in the current contract.
Any questions for Lieutenant Hux?
I got one, Your Honor. What again was the clerical error in that bid? Or on the RFQ or whatever, RFP? Was there a clerical error there, or was it in the actual submission?
The clerical error, there was an address that was, when they were sent out, it went to the wrong address on the letter. The letter was returned. The new letter didn't go out till the Friday before the Labor Day weekend, and the bids were supposed to do the Tuesday morning after Labor Day, so they didn't receive until that Labor Day morning. So fairness being all equal, it wasn't received by somebody that was going to be bidding on it. They didn't have an opportunity to come and look at the building and those kind of things. So that was that clerical error. The other issue was the schedule, which determines and specifies what is to be done at the Law Center, was not added to the bid package originally.
And I can understand that with that address is a kind of an oops, but that kind of is on us, isn't it? Did we send it out with the wrong address on it? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so we did get one bidder, and again, here we are at a public bid, having to look at rejecting him, not simply for the price, but because errors were made. And I understand why we should reject him. I understand the recommendation, but we need to kind of get that together, because we, again, have a contractor here or a service provider who's got their numbers exposed. And I don't think that's really the proper, correct way, if we can help it, for that to happen. Yeah, feel free. I'm just stating my opinion, Phil.
I was going to say, it's not unprecedented for the city to reject bids, especially when they are higher than anticipated or outside of budget. It was a meeting in August, I think, where the airport supervisor had recommended to rebid in the spring for the apron improvement project. You had another example where we had a bid that was, and that one I think was only 11% higher than the engineer's cost. You had another example was earlier this summer, we had Director of Public Works had requested to reject a sole bid for reconstruction on, I think it was catch basins or the catch basin wells. And that bid came in a lot higher than the opinion of cost. That was an obvious one there. It happens, and the numbers are out there. It could be that they were higher because of the timing of things. It could be that they didn't feel that they were able to supply it at that time. If the information wasn't in there to be able to put together a proposal, then you had, except for the one person currently doing the job, everyone at a disadvantage, and maybe not receive any for that reason. So I don't think it's out of line at all to reject the bids. Perhaps it provides a little more competition. They can definitely submit the same proposal. They can sharpen the pencils and submit a different proposal.
Well, and certainly I agree with after the stand we took on garbage, I am not going to say that we can't reconsider, because I believe that wholeheartedly. What I'm saying is I just feel more comfortable when there's a reconsideration or a rejection of bids based on strictly price. It seems like maybe this time everybody should be invited to do a tour or a walkthrough or something of that nature to get a good idea of what they're up against, and just slow it down a little bit. But I'm okay with it if there's all these issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, can I say something?
Certainly.
I guess I had a couple questions on this particular bid. Bidders that had the opportunity can call if there's needs to be clarity. So a lot of times there's addendums sent out after plans if there are something missing from the plan set. So it is frustrating when numbers are out and about. There are cases, as the administrator mentioned. I guess one of the things that I want to make sure council is aware of, when you have a 5-year contract with no price increase and you're looking at another 5-year contract with no price increase, I would ask what was added to the budget, or did it stay the same for 10 years? Did the department look at adding a % cost increase for actual expenses or labor? I hear a lot from this council that, you need to make a livable wage. I don't know if all contracts are handled that way, but I think those things need considered.
Again, bidders have a responsibility to call in if there's incomplete plans and find information for themselves. We don't have to spoon feed everybody. There are times that prices are so high, but you need to look at over a 10-year period, what has happened.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Your Honor, I got one quick question and I'll quit. Going forward, have we, or in the past, have we added inflationary, cost to that or cost of, doing business, 2%, 1%, whatever? Or are we going to plan to do that? Or is that even something we generally do? It's probably something we should be doing, right? Or do we?
Well, to answer on the construction side, we always add construction inflation cost. It ranges from 5 to 8%. So each year, if we put in and we plan a project for 5 years from now, we're going to have to do some sort of inflationary on construction cost. I think it's silly on services to think that, oh, you don't have that.
Okay.
Was there a cost added in for inflation?
No, and how I can sort of explain it is when the contracts come due, we're typically already through the initial part of figuring out the contract for the next year. So we typically go with whatever we've had as a bid. So use that as a starting point. The next 5 years, you bid something, things could go up or could go down. I don't know. It depends on the situation of who's going to bid, in my opinion. If one factor in this is it was a little higher than normal, we didn't budget for it, so we have to wait for that system to sort of figure out again. But one of the biggest factors in this for me was kind of being fair to the other people that might bid. They didn't have any opportunity to even look at it. They weren't aware that it was out. So that's kind of the bigger part of it. But we would have to figure in a cost of increase at some point if the bids do come in higher.
I would agree this would be, if it wasn't for the clerical error and not actually sending out a set to the proper person, I would probably vote against this.
And I think the one other thing too is with that is where it's important to say the specs being sent out on that. I agree that you can definitely call for clarification, but the response, I think, requested to have your costs and what you were going to provide for chemicals and what you're going to services you're going to be able to provide. The returned response said what was in that spec sheet. So, I mean, if that is the response, great. That works for that case. Anyone that didn't have those sheets, though, wouldn't be able to respond in that same way, creating an unfair advantage.
Okay, good discussion, good questions. Are you ready to vote?
No, I have a question that skipped this.
Go ahead.
Once again, people, I guess, Officer Hux, you are clear that the clerical error was ours, not theirs?
Yes.
Okay. But secondly, really, this company had the contract for 5 years, did not ask for any increase. They make a bid, again, with no increase, but the bid is higher, and your department does not ever look at what a cost increase might look like. So then you just say, well, the bid's too high. I don't understand. It doesn't sound like good budgeting to me.
So when we're going through the process, looking at these kind of outside contracts for janitorial, we sort of go with we look at the last couple years. And of course, these bids are 5 year, it's something like the tow, it's a couple years or a 3 year contract. So we look at the current situation. It's up to the people out there that's going to be bidding on it. I don't know what the situation is out there. We try to bring in the smallest amount of money cost wise. So we anticipate a certain amount of increase, but if they don't change, we're going to go with the low amount. We're not going to add 2% or 10% during the process, because we're always at the direction to limit the amount of money we're budgeting for. We're always looking for cuts in specific areas. So these are the areas that we have to sort of look at. So during the process I've been doing budgets, we typically try not to increase those outside unknown contracts that potentially could happen in 2 or 3 years down the road, unless somebody does do that. This is the first time that in 5 years that there's a change. it is a significant change higher, and I don't disagree with the cost of living and those kind of things. But sometimes those things can't be factored in. We don't know those when we're budgeting. So yes, in the future, I agree, we might look at that based on what our bids will be coming in at, more than one bid.
Okay.
But I think it's all the factors together that we have to look at.
Right.
That was out of my control.
But you're saying you did anticipate from 5 years prior, you did anticipate what you thought would be a fair price for a bid?
No, what I'm saying is it's a 5-year contract. So we constantly, for the last 5 years, we would use the same amount. We're not going to add any more money to that line item in the budget for janitorial services, since we know that's what the contract is going to be for the next 5 years. We're not going to, if it's $18,000, let's say for instance, I'm not going to go in and say $25,000 for it when I already know what it's going to be for the next year. So when the 5th year comes up, if during the contract time, yeah, we might need to look at that there might be a 2% increase or something like that in the near future. But I don't know that because the bids didn't come in that way. So it's a 5-year contract. Maybe that might be a little too far for a contract too. Instead of 5, it could be 3, but that's.
Okay. So I'm sorry, the last thing for me. So you used as a base, what the contract was 5 years previous. You used that as a base to determine that a bid is higher than you wanted it to be?
Well, I'm not the only one making this decision,
Right, I
obviously. So, yes, me being kind of in charge of trying to keep the cost down at the police department.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna always try to look at that and scrutinize it because I'm going to have to find the money somewhere else
Okay, thank you.
because it goes from one place to another. So then I look at staff to assist in those things.
Just as a point of clarification, it's a 5-year agreement, or it has been, and it states in that there is no increase during that 5-year period. So that is the way that has been drafted and bid on in the past. You know, if in the future you wanted to have it, or if you wanted to offer it up, reject and rebid, resubmit the proposals, you could have in there to have it each year. They put in what they want to have, similar to what the garbage service was. Every year there was a price. I mean, those options. But I think what Lieutenant Hunks is saying is that year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, there's no need for an increase when it's drafted that way. Going into year 5, well, I guess 6 technically, you know, do you have some room in there as far as you may budget the same, but is there a, you know, reasonable amount of anticipated increase in that? And so when they're looking at that and how the numbers came in, I guess, you know, they're looking at, is this reasonable? Is it acceptable? Can we fit it within our current budget? There's going to have to be a trade-off. If they budgeted $18,000, it comes in at 25, that's $7,000 that might not be going towards uniforms or, you know, gear or whatever it might be.
Skip, did you have?
I don't fully understand this. I would think in the budget process, if you had something that was going on for 5 years or 1 year even, you know that that's going to increase the following year. Very seldom do things go down. So I think there should be a different process there. I know when I done budgets at Public Works, we always anticipated a certain amount of raise. We knew from the truck people how much a truck was going to raise or a vehicle was going to raise the coming year. So we prepared for that. I don't know. I don't understand this one at all.
Well, that was to my point there, is that you may have it in there where rather than having a 5-year locked rate, which is a long period of time to not have any adjustment for cost of living or material expense, of saying, give us your price for year 1, year 2, year 3, and so on, and have it be like that. That very well could also be a reason that nobody submitted a proposal. We don't know why they didn't, but they didn't.
You know, well, I don't see any way out other than redo it, but I don't know, I don't like it, but.
Well, and if you revise that and have an annual adjustment in there, then that really isn't an unfair advantage, because now the sole provider can also put in numbers that reflect that, rather than saying, well, this is what we're going to have for 5 years, and say, here we can have for year 1, 2, 3, and so on. So you revise the process at the same time.
I think you've given the staff some good feedback, and at this point, let's let them, depending on your vote, resubmit the bids with clarification about how they would build in increase.
Okay, one more question. Since I had trouble understanding the Sparta Bridge City vote, how that worked. If I vote no, in other words, this says reject the bid, and if I vote no, I don't want you to reject it, will that mean the earlier bid is accepted?
No. You still need an affirmative action. So you're voting against rejecting, says you're not in favor of rejecting the bids, which may mean you are in favor of accepting the bid, but you still have to have an affirmative action to carry that out.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any other clarification? Okay, take the vote.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
No.
Motion carries 2-1. Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Resolution number 213, 2020, waiving temporary use of sidewalk and sidewalk cafe permit requirements for certain businesses on Main Street during the Streetscape ribbon cutting and Scoop the Loop event to be held on October 29th, 2020. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 213, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation is presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, Kevin?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ottumwa has organized a streetscape ribbon cutting and Scoop the Loop event for October 29th, 2020. This event will celebrate the completion of the 2-year and $6 million Ottumwa streetscape project, approximately $6 million, I say. The event will allow members of the community to return to a fully accessible and, in fact, greatly improved downtown. Organizers are hoping the event will include a bustling atmosphere on Main Street, sidewalk sales, and dining. This resolution will waive the requirement that businesses in the streetscape area obtain a permit for sidewalk sales or sidewalk dining for one day only. The businesses will still be required to preserve at least 5 feet of open space on the sidewalk for pedestrian thoroughfare. And this waiver will not apply to any restrictions on alcohol sales or service. I think it's important to note that if the business were setting up in front of a business, or if the sales were setting up in front of a business location that was not their business, they would still, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but they would still be required to get a transient merchant license.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Kevin? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Resolution number 218, 2020, establishing building permit fees for mobile homes and mobile home parks in the city of Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 218, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Building permit fees are calculated by using a per square foot value based on the type of use and type of construction being undertaken. These values are based on building valuation data provided by the International Code Council, which writes the international building codes also used by the city. There is no category in these valuations that specifically addresses placing a new mobile home on a mobile home park, which of course is council and the public, I'm sure, are aware to bring a mobile home into the city, that is requirement. This resolution will set a valuation of $25 per square foot on mobile homes placed in mobile home parks. That valuation would be used to calculate the permit fee based on the building permit fee table that was adopted in Resolution 105, 2019 for a typical 16-foot by 64-foot mobile home. This resolution would set the permit fee at $193.04. This fee is comparable to the fee charged by other jurisdictions. For instance, Waukee, Iowa charges a flat $300 fee. Huxley, Iowa charges a flat fee of $200, just for instance, a couple of communities there. Moreover, fees are charged in part to cover time of inspectors and also administrative work regarding the particular building project that's being undertaken. This fee is appropriate to the work required, as a new mobile home does not require framing inspections and other features of a new single-family home with traditional construction, stick-built in other words. But a new mobile home does require inspection of piers, skirting, and other elements in the housing code that are required to properly establish that residence. I would take any question that members may have.
Hearing no questions, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 220, 2020, approving change order number 9 in the amount of $12,800 for the Main Street Downtown Streetscape Reconstruction Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 220, 2020.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Skip. Good evening, Larry. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The design team for the Streetscape project discussed adding additional footings for future installation of sculptures after the design and letting process was complete. It was determined that it would be more cost-effective to add the footings to the current contract versus letting a second contract, which would require rework, including landscaping. Ottumwa Area Arts Council has committed the funding to reimburse the city for the cost of the installation for the sculpture footings. The funding for the sculpture footing has been secured by the Arts Council in the amount of $12,800. The second item is for the addition of trap rock in the bioswales. This rock will allow vertical drainage and prevent erosion of the soil. And this was added, seeing we're a little bit later in the season and until the vegetation can get established to prevent some damage to the bioswales. Change order 9 increases the contract amount by $17,440. The new contract sum is $5,241,174.19. We did add the money coming back from Ottumwa Area Arts Council of $12,800 under the total grants or monies that will go toward this project.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 221, 2020, approving change order number 2 in the amount of $21,037.50 for the CSO Blake's Branch Phase 8 Division 1 project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 221, 2020.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
Change order 2 will provide compensation to the contractor for removal of solid rock deposits encountered on the Elm Street line during construction of the sanitary sewer pipe trench. Removal of the solid rock deposits required the continuous use of pneumatic tools and hydraulic hammers for the construction of the sanitary sewer trench. The cost of the adjustment for the change order was requested by the city and is based on a negotiated unit price. Change order 2 will increase the contract amount by $21,037.50. New contract sum is $11,814,732.63. I will say that rock run under about 600 feet of the 36-inch line right when we started. So in overall, it worked out fairly well for the cost based on the amount of work the contractor had to accomplish.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 222, 2020, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete for the 2020 street crack repair program. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 222, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
This project is one of our annual preventative maintenance programs that consists of sealing street cracks throughout the city of Ottumwa. The contract is set up for a specific linear foot of crack sealing. This year, unit prices were below the estimate and below what we've seen in previous years. Because of the excellent pricing received, a change order was issued to increase the linear foot of the sealing performed. Approximately 18,000 additional linear foot of cracks were sealed while keeping the overall cost within the project budget. The new contract sum is $35,719.80, and we do annually budget $50,000.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Steel equipment of the North Clarifier and a number of exposed steel areas rusted through and required repair. while the water pollution control staff mobilized to weld additional steel sections to these areas. These portions of steel equipment, which were previously sandblasted, started to flash rust, causing the contractor to perform a second round of sandblasting before they could paint it. Change order 2 increases the contract amount by $3,500 for the additional sandblasting, and the project interruption for a new contract sum of $59,600.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 224, 2020, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete and approving the final pay request for the Water Pollution Control Facility Gatewell Conversion Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 224, 2020.
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Thank you. Second? Is there a second?
Oh, second, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, Larry, go ahead.
This project consisted of converting gatewell structures at the end of the Market Street and Jefferson Street bridges, their existing manholes that was added to the north side box interceptor. The gatewells are no longer authorized combined sewer overflows or CSOs. This project closed off these 2 levee penetrations, and watertight access hatch was installed on the Jefferson Street location. The existing hatch was lower than the levee, and then could allow river water into the north side interceptor sewer during flooding events. The contract was let when the river levels were higher, and once the city personnel were able to get onto the riverbed, the concrete on the Market Street gatewells was found to be deteriorated. Change order was issued to perform partial depth concrete repairs. Change order 1 increases the contract sum to $14,450. Mentor Inc. of Brooklyn, Iowa has completed above referenced work according to the plans and specifications, and this will authorize approval of change order 1 with final payment and releasing of all retainage.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Resolution number 225, 2020, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete and approving the final pay request for the East Alta Vista Reconstruction Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 225, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Go ahead, Larry.
This project consists of full width, full depth PCC reconstruction of Alta Vista for a distance of approximately 1,190 feet. Change order 1 decreases the contract sum by $2,928.95 for quantity adjustments. New contract amount is $620,223.15. I've got it divided. What is the city share down below, along with what Ottumwa Water and Hydro will be reimbursing the city for, along with Wapello County. There's a short section that was in the county, and we had an agreement to do the work with our project, and they'll reimburse us.
Any questions for Larry?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Actually, Larry, the last 3 items, 2 were wastewater pollution control, and then this Alta Vista. The public won't get out to the wastewater to see what your people do and being on top of repairs that need to be made. You contract them out, but still compliments to your people for being on top of that. The Alta Vista one, I've had several people comment to me about what an improvement. And again, you contracted out, but your engineers and your people have been on top of that, and what a major improvement. So thank you.
Well, that one had a lot of unique complexities as far as access to some of the private residential homes. There was a lot of temporary accesses that our street crews put in because they're kind of hard to bid, along with a lot of yard work because we actually dropped the profile at the crest of the hill. So it created some challenges with some existing driveways.
But as a second, or either way off of Dahlonega or Alta Vista, that's such a major usage road. So to make that kind of improvement is really great.
Good. Okay. Ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3175, 2020, amending the zoning ordinance number 3088, 2015 of the city of Ottumwa, Iowa, and as set forth in chapter 38 of the municipal code by repealing and replacing sections 38-700 through 38-735 to bring zoning regulations into compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program. Recommendation passed the first consideration of ordinance number 3175, 2020.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Skip. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city's floodplain ordinance places restrictions on development in the special floodplain hazard area. In order to participate in the Federal Emergency Management Administration's National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, which affords property owners in the special flood hazard area the ability to purchase affordable flood insurance, the city must adopt certain restrictions by ordinance. FEMA is updating the flood insurance rate maps, the firms that cover Wapello County and the city of Ottumwa on January 29th, 2021. By that date, the city must update its ordinance to be compliant with paragraph 60.3D of the NFIP in order to participate in the program and prevent lapse in flood insurance or an increase in flood insurance rates for Ottumwa property owners who are in these areas. City staff have worked, city planner particularly, have worked with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources and used the Iowa Model Floodplain Management Ordinance to make updates to the ordinance. This update, or these updates, address changes in the terminology used by FEMA for flood hazards and improve specific restrictions, including in the program as well. All new or altered sections of the ordinance have been highlighted in the packets that council received. I won't go over the litany of those changes. I'm sure council has reviewed those. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended the ordinance improvements at its September 14th, 2020 meeting, as we would need to do. And again, I'd like to thank City Planner Zach Simonson for doing this work and such an integral program for the citizens and our commercial owners in the city in these areas.
Okay. Any questions for Kevin? Larry, have you had a chance to look at these two? They're significant changes. I was amazed at the number of.
I'm sure he has. We've been coordinating quite closely on all the different changes in the mapping. I want to also comment that the Public Works Director was integral in getting some corrections made to our mapping this year, because I think the mayor and I was for Phil Ride, but the mayor and I were quite concerned, and Larry was as well, about some areas in the city, in the south side of the city, particularly along the Jefferson Drainage Ditch, that had been changed. And so the city Public Works Department got involved, and Larry was able to bring those changes back and get that corrected to match what we had experienced for probably the last 50 years. So that was a lot of good work that's gone into this. And of course, it's also related to our work down at the levee that engineering and Public Works have been working on closely with the state authorities as well. So this is culminating and bringing a lot of stuff to head. And it's kind of exciting in a way, because this will be the first time we've done a mapping that will reflect our firm since probably the early 80s. 82. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Waive the second and third considerations, pass and adopt ordinance number 3175, 2020.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to have that done. Item J is public forum. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address any item of the city business? Yes, sir. Come on up to the microphone and identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Jerry Ogden. I'm the president of the Working Man's Christmas Party for Needy Kids. This year, our proposal for our planned Christmas party for the needy children of our area is not to have a mass gathering of people. We're going to have them, if we can get the city council to approve it, we'd like to close off be the Eagle side of the parking lot the parking there so people can proceed up along the door of the Eagles. We will take their card, go in, get their packages, and bring them back out to the individuals. And we feel with the pandemic that's going on, this is a wise decision on our part. It's going to be rough on us. We served over 375 families last year, which was a little over 1,200 children in our area that got serviced.
Okay, council, any direction? You want us to prepare something and give Mr. Ogden some response?
I think the procedure is to get a street use permit and get that okayed. So what date is this, Jerry?
The party will be on Friday, December the 11th.
Yeah, you got some time yet, but you
Yeah.
need to come in and get a street use permit application. And it's signed off by Public Works Director, the Police Department, those people involved. And then that can be set up for you. If you have a request for anything like barricades, you might ask. There's a place on there to ask for that or to fill that in.
I appreciate that, Skip. Really, I do.
I think the city direction is we want to work with you, but we want you to follow procedure.
You betcha. And we want to, that's the reason I'm here tonight.
Appreciate
is
it.
Explaining our views and trying to get in coordination with the city council so everybody's doing it safely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it, Jerry. Item K is petitions, communications. Anything from council or staff?
Your Honor, I got one just question for you. I haven't heard it for a while. Of course, I haven't been in City Hall for a little while. Where are we at on the getting something back to council for the formation of the Human Rights Commission? I know you'd sent out a memo on some information about man hours and some things that staff might have to do, but I didn't know where we were at on that. I know I see Lorraine come to the meetings every week, but haven't seen where we're at on that.
Still in the exploratory stage. I also called a couple of other cities who have commissions and committees made up of citizen volunteers and getting some feedback, but nothing definite at this point to give you. I would like to perhaps make a recommendation to City Administrator Rath and then bring it to the council at the next meeting or the following meeting in November.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your interest. A couple of comments that you should hear about. We did receive today a letter from the Iowa Economic Development Authority closing out the grant for the $500,000 upper story housing project, and they found everything to be in compliance. So that's always good when you get the sign-off letter from the state. You've mentioned tonight the Streetscape opening on the 29th of this month, so we'd like to have as many council and city staff as possible to share in that 2-year project. It's been a great effort and it's really looking good, and we want to celebrate that, and we hope we'll have a couple of state officials here for that. And then lastly, I'd like to recognize Brad Grief's work on the challenge grant that we received. Just got word of that today too. Full $75,000 that we applied for the 304 East Main Street. And I think, as you recall, Kevin presented that last year to us, and I think it's a great project and it's going to work out really well. So we appreciate the Regional Planning Office help in getting that grant completed. Is there anything else from anybody on the council or city staff? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
6:36.